Each year, we've got a program that's kind of like The Voice meets Shark Tank, where we do a big showing of, typically we bring between 5 and 7 different suppliers who have a really cool new product. They showcase it. We've got 4 judges up there. The judges judge it, and then there's a winner at the end. We typically get a few thousand people that show up to it. It's a whole lot of fun. So you see a lot of the innovation within the merch space appear on that stage. But really, our distributors go there to see what is new and what is cool and to make the connections. And they also go to be a part of our full day of education.
This is Associations Thrive, the podcast celebrating successful associations and their leaders. I'm your host, Joanna Pineda, CEO and Chief Troublemaker at Matrix Group International. Listen in as top association executives tell all, revealing the creative and innovative ways they're increasing membership, generating revenue, nurturing engagement, and reimagining their organizations. By the way, if you've launched a new initiative, created new member services, or updated your governance structure and are seeing great results, I want to hear your story, and so do my listeners. I'd love to have you as a guest. Go to podcast.matrixgroup.net and apply to be on Associations Thrive. Now let's dive into this week's show. Today, I'm speaking with Drew Holmgreen, President and CEO of Promotional Products Association International, or PPAI. Drew, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Drew, tell us about PPAI.
Sure. So PPAI is the world's largest association for promotional products professionals. And what that means is basically anybody who works within the landscape of providing promotional products, promotional branded merch, whether they are a supplier that physically manufactures and distributes them, or a distributor who actually works with the end client, the end user, to conceptually build out what they need and then go to the supplier to get the order, and then business service providers. And those are people who might do the decoration, which is the stitching and stuff like that. So anybody in that industry and anybody within those fields, they can be a member of PPAI. We've got a little bit over 15,000 members. Our membership is corporate based, not individual based. So if you looked at the individuals, obviously it goes way, way bigger than 15,000. We're an international association, so we've got membership that's based here in the States, in Canada, Latin America, Europe, and beyond.
Drew, I'm curious about this. You know, my company, we order promotional products on a regular basis because if we're going to a trade show, I want stuff to give away. If we're going to a meeting at the end of the year, I always want to give something to my staff. It seems to me that there's a lot of people involved in just my order of shirts, or just my order of interesting cubes, for example. So give us an example of, I guess, the ecosystem involved here. Like, where does my order go and how does it get made?
Yes, that ecosystem within the branded merch industry is large and vast. I will tell you that we are actually working right now on an economic impact study that we should have out by the end of this year that will detail just how much the direct and indirect economic impact is among the promotional product sector. So it starts with you, the end client. So you will find somebody who is in the agency space, whether that's a marketing agency or just a straight up branded merch agency. They'll come to you with, okay, Joanna, what do you guys need? Like, what's the end goal? What's the strategy? They'll build out a creative solution for you. And then they'll go to their suppliers, and their suppliers can be somebody who actually physically makes the shirt or the cup or the mug or whatever it is. And they will then price it out. They will come back to you with the concept on what you need printed on there. So then you've got another company that gets the product from the supplier and then physically prints on it. And then you've got your kind of supply chain management, how it ships back to the distributor or it drop ships to your event. Now you've got people who can be at ports who are receiving them. So, I mean, the industry is incredibly deep and touches a whole lot of people.
Drew, is it the case that sometimes these products are wholly made overseas, or is it the case that the materials are sourced from outside the U.S. but then assembled here? Like, it sounds really complicated.
Yeah, and especially with the tariff landscape that we're going through right now and the current US administration, it's one of the challenges we're facing. So, as you can imagine, there's a lot of manufacturing that takes place overseas in China, in Cambodia, Taiwan, Bangladesh, and beyond. There's a lot of manufacturing that takes place in Canada, in Mexico, and then there's certainly a lot that takes place here in the States. What you'll often see is that it's not just the manufacturing, but also the decoration. So that's the stitching and things like that that could take
Ah.
place overseas. So when you do get into the impact of the current administration and the tariffs that they're putting in, there's a lot of advocacy we're doing right now to elevate just what that means for our community and the entirety of our community as they place those. It's definitely a complex supply chain.
I was looking at your website before we started this interview, and you've got, I don't know, maybe a half dozen categories for your membership. I think the lowest category is companies with a revenue of under $500,000, all the way up to over $50 million. So give us a sense of the range of the size of the companies.
Sure. And, also understand that there's primarily three different types of members, three different types of professions within the promo merch industry. And one is the supplier, which I mentioned a second ago. One is the distributor, and then the other is the business service provider. Each of those varies significantly in size, and each of them can be as small as a $500,000 distributor who's doing, a fairly small amount of revenue each year, but they can go up to the billions.
Oh,
It could be a mom and pop shop all the way up to a company that's got tens of thousands of employees. There's a few of which I've been fortunate to have a lot of conversations and go meet some of their executives in their warehouses and corporate headquarters. I mean, these are massive, massive facilities of which, I'm new to this industry. So the scope of these has been really eye popping for me, to say the least.
well, let's turn to your journey. You're a new CEO, a first-time association CEO. How'd you get to become president and CEO of PPAI? Tell us about how you got here.
Sure, I'd like to say it was just sheer blind luck, but I think I've had some pretty good mentors and some good insights that got me here. I'm a marketing guy by trade. I love marketing. It's been one of the things that brings me joy. Ever since I was a little kid, commercials and just general advertising always stuck with me. I would take a little boombox when I was a kid. I would record Scooby Doo on my boombox, obviously just audio, and I would play it back. And I would always listen to the commercials, not so much Scooby Doo talk. And I'm a sports guy. I played football in college, and I watch a lot of sports on TV. I find myself shushing my friends so I can see the TV spots often. So I am a
Ah.
marketing guy, and I'm that guy that's annoying during the games when people get up to go get chips and a beer. I'm staying there on the couch to watch the commercials while also dissecting the play.
So you love the Super Bowl.
I do love the Super Bowl, but again, my Super Bowl is not so much it is watching the game and that sort of thing, but I do really get a lot of enjoyment watching the commercials. I was in the ad agency space for 17 years, started my career at the biggest of the big at McCann Erickson, and finished my career at a small creative boutique called Belmont Ice House. So I've worked on big clients with big budgets all the way down to small clients with small budgets. After that, I left the agency space and I worked for Meeting Professionals International for 7 years. I left there as the chief experience officer. And how PPAI kind of came into scope, I had a really good colleague come to me with the prospects of the position. And to be fully transparent on it, I'd been thinking about my next move, but I'd been thinking about going back to the corporate side, working as a CMO or a chief brand officer somewhere, or potentially going back to the agency space. And the association space had not been much of a consideration until this job was brought to me.
Hmm.
And I was speaking to some of my mentors and really doing some soul searching and realized I love the marketing space. It's what I've always been interested in. I love the association space for the community component. I love the people, the passion of the membership, the staff who are so bought into it. A lot of the staff at MPI and then at PPAI, they are former members. I mean, they came to the organization because this is the Mount Everest of what you can do within the industry. So when I started thinking about that, I was like, well, this makes sense. I'm a marketing guy. This is a marketing association. this is where I want to spend the rest of my career. Fortunately, the board, when I went through interviews, we got along exceptionally well. And that's why I'm in this seat today.
So you're there for how long? How long have you been CEO?
I have been here for 65 days. Not that I'm
Oh,
counting day by day, but yeah, it's very new. It's very fresh. The saying that I've been putting out there lately, because I'm from Texas, is that I am taming the stampede with a lasso.
Drew, how do you learn this industry while taking on a different job? What's new and different and what's surprising you?
The way that I'm learning it is by listening. I have a lot of conversations. I've deliberately spent time, we've got 57 staff. I've spent time with every single one of them, getting to personally know them, but then also trying to understand what their role, their passion is in the industry. I've gotten to know our board of directors very, very well, having lots of conversations with them. And then I've also been talking to a lot of our stakeholders, going to visit their facilities, trying to just glean as much knowledge as I can about the supply chain, all of the different pieces along the way, what a distributor does when they're pitching business, all the way up to what a supplier does when they're helping to facilitate, and the business service provider that connects the two in between. And Joanna, where I had a little bit of an inside track on this, one of the agencies where I worked, Belmont Ice House, we actually spun off a company called Belmont Swag, which was devoted to doing promotional products. So we were a distributor within this space. So I had a little bit of inside baseball knowledge coming into it. But I mean, I'm not just learning one new thing every single day. I'm learning like 10 to 12 new things every single day that's really accelerating my knowledge.
Well, it sounds like you've been in the association space for a bit, but it's different to be the chief exec. What's a couple takeaways from being a first-time CEO?
My former chair at MPI, Rob Adams, after I announced the position and it was shared, he and I spent some time on the phone, and I thought it was a great conversation. And I've had some really good ones with other CEOs. One of the things that's interesting, I'm a people person by nature. I'm a talker. I like to get to know people. And what Rob told me is people are not going to talk to you the way that they used to. And I said, "What do you mean, Rob?" And he said, "You're the CEO now. So they're always going to put their best face forward with you. And you can't share like you used to be able to share." And I was C-level at MPI. I was chief experience officer. And I'm a transparent guy by nature. I would be much more open and sharing about things, whereas now I need to be a little bit more reserved. And I also need to have a good network of people who have similar concerns and issues and can problem solve because they've been there. That's been an interesting growth path for me, is really recognizing when and who and what I can talk about.
Well, but if people want to put their best foot forward in front of you, then you have to do something special so that they're candid with you.
Correct.
When things maybe aren't going the way we planned. So how do you do that?
Yeah, so I've made it very transparent to my team that I want to create a positive culture. I lead with positivity. That's one of my superpowers. So I make that very known to my staff, to the board, and to our membership so that they can feel comfortable in coming to me with anything that they might need to talk to me about. I do like to be very approachable. I like to be in the center of it when I can be. But I also am very honest with the team and saying, sometimes you've got to understand there are certain things I just cannot disclose to you because they're either being developed and in play, or it's just not at a point to where it's public knowledge yet. So that's that transparency that I really try and lead with.
And I bet they appreciate that, because instead of saying nothing, you're explaining why you're not disclosing the information.
Yep. And sometimes, Joanna, it's as simple as I just kind of give a little smile and I say, "Can't talk to you about that right now."
Yeah, not yet. Yeah.
Yep.
Drew, I'm hearing you say positivity and you mentioned joy. Talk to me about joy.
Yeah, sure. So that's another reason why I really like this industry, like this position. There's a big difference between different marketing mechanisms, right? You've got your standard channels that people really think about in the marketing ecosystem and the brand ecosystem, TV, radio, et cetera. You have a passive relationship with those type of media. What I love about branded merch is it's an active relationship, and it legitimately creates joy for people. And that's a concept that I spoke about when I was interviewing for the job. It was a strategy that I brought forward to the executive committee saying, what I love about promotional products and what I love about PPAI in this community is that we create joy.
Ah,
And that word create's got two different meanings to it. They physically, from a supply chain perspective, create the joy. But when the product is handed to somebody, it's also creating an emotional joy for that individual. And so I think that that joy is incredibly important as we really elevate the branded merch sector within the brand ecosystem. We really lean into joy and just how we develop that emotional, tangible connection between a brand and its end consumer.
boy, that is so interesting. I think about how when I'm going to a trade show, I specifically will say, I want to walk around for the branded merch, the tchotchkes. And then when I get back, the staff will say, what'd you bring back? And I'll pass it around. I got people all over the country and I'll mail them stuff. And it brings them joy that they got a t-shirt, a mug, a bear, a light up cube.
When I go to a show, if I don't come home with something for my 10-year-old, he gets angry, and an angry 10-year-old is not a good place to be. So, yeah, I always come home with something for him. And he loves little things like just the little journals that are branded.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the little things that can bring joy like that. And when I see his little face light up because I brought him a water bottle or a journal or, some type of plush toy or something like that, his joy brings me joy. So it kind of brings it all full circle.
Wow. Do your members realize that they create joy? Or is this something that you're instilling in them and making sure that they realize the impact that they have?
That's something that I've really been trying to thread throughout each conversation that I have on a main stage. Yes, they know that they create joy. There's some efforts that need to be developed that we're going to work on throughout this year to really create some of our own industry marketing to showcase just what promotional products do for our society. And I know that sounds really lofty, and it is, but it's what's necessary to help elevate this channel within the ecosystem and further drive that feeling of pride that our community has in what they do.
Well, let's turn to PPAI. So talk to us about these initiatives to make the industry better known.
One thing that we do a lot of is advocacy. And there's two different channels for advocacy. There's advocacy in what we do for our community to ensure that its voice is heard on Capitol Hill. And we've got an event next month called LEAD, where we'll take nearly 100 of our community will join us in going to visit representatives and really talk about some of the issues that are close to us. And there are a lot right now. So
I'm sure there are a lot.
There's a lot. So we're going to go talk about that. But then second is advocacy for elevating the industry. That's where we have a lot of work to do this year. And fortunately, we've got some great partners, whether they're our membership or our regional associations. We've got great partners that can distribute that messaging and help us really craft and curate it. So we're going to be in the process of developing what's essentially an end user advocacy campaign that will also apply to brands. So I love what we see from brands like locally here in Texas, Whataburger and Buc-ee's. On the large scale, if you watch the show Severance, you'll see that Apple puts that Lumen logo on everything in that show.
Right.
So I love seeing brands like Apple showcasing what branded merch does for a story and a plot line that just shows you the extent and the power that promotional products have. So those type of campaigns and getting these brands as part of the conversation, that's really going to be a lot of the advocacy efforts that we're going to be doing throughout the year.
You've got a big expo. I want to hear about this because I love trade shows. And I bet this is important, especially in an industry like promotional products. So what's new and different about your expo, and what do you do?
We've got a whole line of signature events, and PPAI Expo is really the everything to all people. So it's a 3-day trade show plus 1 day of education, professional development. 16,000 plus people attended this past January. It's in Vegas each January. For the next few years, we'll be at Mandalay Bay, which is a wonderful facility. We have exhibitors, primarily suppliers and decorators who show up, and we get about 4,000 or 5,000 of them. Some of them have massive spaces that you can come in and see the merch and touch the merch. And some of them have smaller spaces that are just tabletops. So you've got, again, it goes that breadth of small suppliers all the way up to these multi-billion dollar companies. The majority of our attendees are the distributors. And those are the individuals who go and they're trying to connect with the suppliers, see the new cool things. Each year, we've got a program that's kind of like The Voice meets Shark Tank, where we do a big showing of typically we bring between 5 and 7 different suppliers who have a really cool new product. They showcase it. We've got 4 judges up there. The judges judge it, and then there's a winner at the end. We typically get a few thousand people that show up to it. It's a whole lot of fun. So you see a lot of the innovation within the merch space appear on that stage. But really, our distributors go there to see what is new and what is cool and to make the connections. And they also go to be a part of our full day of education. So we've got keynotes and breakout sessions and everything. This January was my first show. In fact, Joanna, my 3rd day on the job was my first day at Expo.
Oh, my goodness.
My first day on the job was a board meeting. So I got thrown right into it, which was great.
Okay, so I got to ask, what's new and innovative in promotional products in merch?
In general, what you will start to see is a lot more incorporation of digital components into merch. So you'll see, like, for example, when we go to our lead show here in a couple weeks in DC, we'll have these kind of branded portfolios for people to take, and they'll have scan codes within them. Now, these scan codes, when you hand it off to somebody, somebody can scan it and can get immediate information in a one-pager and that sort of thing. So now we're giving you something you can keep, but we're also giving you something that's actionable.
Oh, so instead of just the company name or logo, there's other things.
Right. It's not just a QR code, it's an actual chip that lives in there. So those kind of things are cool. One of our contestants during our program at Expo this year had a koozie that had one of these chips embedded into it. So really cool technology like that. The other cool innovations are really within the sustainability space. One of the concerns that's out there about branded merch is sustainability.
Because it's seen as throwaway stuff sometimes, right?
Correct. Now, the reality is, beyond the ability for a lot of these things to be combustible, many of them actually have sustainable resources implanted into them. So created from sustainable resources or even having a second life to them. I was speaking to somebody earlier today about that kind of second life of branded merch. You know, the best thing that can happen is when somebody is done with a cup or done with a shirt or done with something else, they'll take it to Goodwill or they'll hand it off to somebody else. And now it's got a whole second life after it.
Right.
So there's a lot of sustainability that we talk about in terms of second life, in terms of resource production that we work through, and we do a lot of education behind that. So those are some of the big innovations. I will tell you that my favorite thing that I saw was by our winner from a company called Rupt, R-U-P-T. I'm a fanatic about having everything charged, and they developed this really cool portable charger that folds up, will charge your Apple Watch, your AirPods, your phone all at the same time, and it's nice and compact. But what was really great about it is that it also came with a portable charger for the phone. So as your phone is charging overnight, you lift it up and it's got a portable charger attached to the back. You just slip it into your back pocket and go. So that thing was super cool.
Oh my God, my next giveaway at a conference.
Exactly. When I saw it, I just kind of snuck over and said, "These are for us to grab." And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, cool." And just kind of walked away with it. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a lot of great producers out there that are pulling forward new concepts for fully digital promo items. So yeah, brands can start doing things that can end up in your inbox and be carried along with you.
Well, in addition to the expo, you've got other events that you do throughout the year. You guys are pretty busy. So tell us about these other events.
Yeah, for sure. Again, it's all in the realm of making sure that our community has what they need to grow from a professional development perspective. While Expo is kind of everything to everybody, we get much more tight on specific content at our other events. So we have Women's Leadership Conference, which is coming up here pretty soon in Coronado, California. And that's focused on exactly what it sounds like, women's leadership. So a full few days of programming around that. We also have our North American Leadership Conference, which takes place in Chicago. and that is a leadership conference. So it's a little bit more elevated in the level of individuals and executives who attend that. We also have our Responsibility Summit, which takes place in San Diego this year. That's fully focused on sustainability and corporate social responsibility. And then we've got our International Summit, which this is the first time that we've done this, which will be in Brussels this year and in this coming May. That's part of our devoted energy around our international community. And this is the first time that we've done that.
Wow, you're doing a lot of stuff, but I want to turn to something that's a little bit different. You have a foundation.
Yes.
And you're doing some interesting stuff there. I'd like you to talk to us about that.
Absolutely. So it's the Promotional Products Education Foundation, PPEF. Over the course of its existence, they have given out over $4 million. What we do is we give scholarships, education scholarships to those who are in our community or families of those who are in our community. It's a pretty easy application process. This year, we're projected to give out about $300,000 worth of scholarships. We're really, from a strategic perspective, really looking to grow the presence of PPEF and make it much more organic in how it's a part of the fabric of everything we do. So it's got a nice presence at Expo. It's got a nice presence at the rest of our signature events, but we're really going to start focusing on and expanding upon that. I'll be honest, I do think that it's possible that we could be giving out $1 million a year in educational scholarships with a concerted focus on driving donations and sponsorships and having additional activations that we could work through. It's a great cause.
Drew, why is this important? Why scholarships? I mean, I see foundations that maybe fund research.
Sure.
To promote the industry, but scholarships, interesting. Why that?
To continue people growing and to grow the next generation. We want to get the next gen of marketers aware of the impact that promotional products make, and we want to help fund their education to grow their careers. But Joanna, to your point, I do think there is an opportunity down the line for us to expand the scope of what the foundation does to include research grants, to include other foundation grants that we can apply our funding and support towards.
Drew, it's a joke at Matrix Group, my company, that when there's a new CEO, they will, within a year, move the office or rebrand, want to redo the website, or something big and dramatic. So you're redoing your office.
Yes.
So tell us about that. And is this big and new and different?
Yeah. So fortunately, I walked into one side of the office completely being done with its renovation, while the other side is fully under construction. I walked in and I said, wow, y'all redid the office just for me. That was so nice. So we will not be moving the office underneath my direction. The other two, working on the brand, working on the website, probably going to happen, but not the office space. So yeah, PPAI bought and built this facility, I want to say in the late 80s, early 90s. And it was over 30 years old. It just simply needed some love. So modernized the way that it's set up, brought in new technologies throughout. So it's amazing to the point to where each individual office, you can regulate the temperature.
Yes.
For each individual office, which I run cold. So that's pretty awesome for me. But yeah, it's a beautiful new office space. It's in Irving, which is here in the Dallas Metroplex.
What are you doing that's new and different with the space? To either bring people back or encourage members? I'm hearing things like that.
Yeah, so a couple things. One is we created a big open common space for everybody to gather, and we kind of turned it into what we're calling the PPAI Cafe. So we've got nice cafe chairs, a really, really good coffee machine. So that keeps everybody caffeinated throughout the days. But then we also do just kind of these small moments of joy. So whether that's just bringing in donuts on a random Tuesday morning, or earlier this week, since it was St. Patrick's Day, we had like all of these kind of St. Patrick's Day stuff set up for people to engage with. So we're just trying to create those moments of joy so that people are not just enjoying the new space and enjoying the coffee, but actually finding ways to connect with each other. The other thing that we're doing is, and this is currently under construction, is we're building out a whole training facility within. So one room, it's kind of an oversized conference room where we can actually engage with our members, our regionals, and our members can use that room to do their own training. We can use it to do training for our board, for volunteers. So we're really trying to make the space not just utilitarian for our own purposes, but for our members as well.
Drew, I keep hearing joy. How do you encourage other people on your staff to add joy to their lives? Because it's one thing for you to feel like there's joy in your life, but it's a little bit different to encourage other people to see joy everywhere.
Yeah. And a lot of that, Joanna, is really just trying to communicate and lead with a positive outlook. I think that joy within the office space kind of comes down from the top. And as I mentioned, I really do strive to be and lean into being a positive leader. So I've spent time over the course of the past couple of months meeting with every single staff member. And when they come into my office, I say, there's no agenda here. I just want to talk. I just want to get to know you. And so I think the more that we can facilitate conversations like that, so it's not just me, but it's also facilitating conversations between all of our team members, having these little moments of joy. We're going to have an all team lunch tomorrow. Anybody who's in the office tomorrow, we're just all going to go sit down and eat empanadas together to get to know one another.
Ooh.
So it's little things like that to try and make sure people are finding joy in their daily tasks. But then also, I'm a very open communicator about the work-life balance. While we have a hybrid office schedule, we do try and allow for some flexibility. So, for example, I need to go pick up my son here in about 30 minutes or so from school. If things like this pop up, we don't want to feel like you're handcuffed. We know that people have lives outside of the office. They spend a lot of energy and passion and time inside the office space. So we always want to be able to provide those moments of joy within the space, but then also be flexible outside.
Man, do I love this, leading with joy. Drew, to close this out, you're a new CEO. What does a successful 2025 look like for you?
I want to make sure that I get a firm understanding of this industry and I really get to connect with as much of our community as possible. So it kind of starts there. I want to be able to accelerate that knowledge and become embedded in the industry and get to know folks. I also want to make sure that from an organizational perspective, we are set up structurally and financially in a way that we are sustainable for the short and long term. What's fortunate, there are such great people in this organization. It's got a really good financial backbone. I just want to work to make sure that it is set up for success going forward, and then start to bring in some new strategies in terms of what our brand looks like and feels like, what our communication priorities are and how we are communicated out into the space. And then the big success metric that I am holding myself against is really start that process of elevating branded merch within the marketing ecosystem, making those connections with big brands, with other peer associations like the American Marketing Association, the 4As, really pulling us together so we kind of have that super friends type mentality of this is the brand ecosystem. We're working together, collaborating together to create what the collective brand should be going forward.
Drew, I'm going to have you back next year because you're going to have a lot to report on.
I hope so.
Thanks so much for being on today.
Thank you, Joanna. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Associations Thrive. We're so glad to have you here. My personal mission and the mission of my company, Matrix Group International, is to help associations and nonprofits increase membership, generate revenue, and thrive in the digital space. I want to hear stories of how your organization is thriving in today's challenging landscape. Please apply to be on my show by going to podcast.matrixgroup.net. By the way, do you need help with a digital initiative? Maybe it's a website redesign, a new membership database, or a hybrid meeting that you're planning. I'd love to connect with you. Please visit the Matrix Group website at matrixgroup.net. Thanks again for listening to this week's episode of Associations Thrive. Don't forget to subscribe to the show, leave a 5-star rating, post a comment, and share it with your colleagues and friends. Bye!